Hi guys, in this video I wanted to continue my series about the issues surrounding taxation as theft, or as I say, really a form of extortion, by addressing the common objection to this thinking, which is the idea of the social contract. Now, recently within the UK, a boxer, I believe Oliver Pinnock, I'll actually put links to the article below, he cited the Magna Carta in defense of his objection to paying the council tax. And the director of revenue basically said, well, paying council taxes are not optional. We all have to pay it simply because it pays for all the services that we use in public life. In other words, because the government spends money, we need to find ways to raise money, and thereby you have to pay your taxes, which is the ultimate form of circular reasoning, if ever there was one. Now, I haven't read the judgment. I would love to read the full dossier on the case and actually hear what the judges actually cited. But this brings up the idea of the social contract. Now, I've heard this objection a number of times, and it's a little bit complicated to explain my reasons why I don't think this actually stands up to scrutiny, which is why I didn't do this in my previous video. Now, first and foremost, I think it was Jean-Jacques Rousseau back in 1762 wrote the book about the social contract, and his work actually went on to inspire many constitutional studies on the subject. Haven't read the book. I'll put links to probably a couple copies if you want to get that and read it for yourself. But the idea is simply by being in a particular country or using any of the facilities that we have available, in a sense, we consent to this idea of the social contract, which allows the government in return for providing these services to issue taxation upon the populace. Now, I have a number of problems with this. First and foremost, there are a number of people who use all of the public services that are not taxed, which includes people like tourists to your particular country, young children who are still going to school and are not employed, some of the elderly, the disabled. In fact, there's probably a large portion of the people in poverty who pay nothing in tax, maybe even receive money from the state, that are still allowed to use all these public facilities regardless. So the idea that there is this blanket sort of covering for all the populace is simply fallacious. Now, it is directed specifically to the working class. It is only people who actually make money who actually end up paying all of these taxes. Everybody else gets a free pass. But all right, it's fine. You want to put it in the realms of the working people and so forth, suggesting that their mere presence and the use of these facilities is in effect consent to this social contract. But if that was any kind of real reasoning, that would mean that basically any person who was present in any country that their government did something illegal, illicit, or something they disagreed with, their very presence would mean consent. And what I mean by this is, let's take something that was very unpopular, like in the United States with the invasion of the country of Iraq, the Iraq War under Bush the Jr. There were a lot of people who disagreed with the military action. But the social contract thinking will say, well, the people who remained in the US implicitly consented to this action simply by being there. And I think we see the obvious problems with that, especially since many of them, with their actions, are vocally suggesting protest, disagreement with it, and all these other kinds of things. So these the social contract advocates suggesting that inherent presence is some kind of consent, even though the person is vocalizing their clear non-consent to the government actions, but their presence is some kind of, higher understanding of consent, creates all sorts of problems. So if I'm saying that, look, I do not appreciate being taxed, and these are my words, and I say that this is a form of theft, and I'm not agreeing to this, I'm doing it under duress, that does not suddenly become inferior to the fact that I'm present in a country and we could take my presence over the words that I've said as some kind of consent. This kind of reasoning is just problematic, to say the least. And the other thing about it is, because the tax laws keep changing, there should be a continuous renewal of the issues of consent. And because that's never actually done, it's just implied, it's just this circular reasoning. Again, we could point to the fact that there really isn't this kind of thinking of a social contract. And lastly, if there was some kind of social contract in that respect with consent and all this other kinds of things, these matters would be resolved in contract law, and there could be penalties, equity, and damages that are are extracted. But we see, at least in the West, when taxes are not paid, there is an overreach of the state, seizure of assets, guilty until proven innocent, all of these other kinds of things that again show that this is not resolved like any type of contract. So again, I understand what people are trying to do, this kind of circular reasoning to say, well, your very presence within a country constitute consent, even though I'm vocalizing my non-consent or saying that I'm doing this under duress, which anybody who understands the basics of contract law, agreement under duress basically breaks the contract, or at least makes it null and void. All of these factors kind of point to the fact that there really isn't this social contract. And especially since a lot of people are using these public facilities without paying a cent or even in taxes, or rather they may be receiving money from the government, again shows that this kind of thinking that, this is what it's being used for doesn't really hold up to scrutiny. So yeah, that is my video. I just wanted to put this out there really quick. Again, I'll put links to the article concerning the gentleman in the UK citing the Magna Carta. The UK, New Zealand, and Israel are the only countries in the world that don't have a codified constitution. I think it's probably time that these countries probably did that. Because I think the overreach of the government and stuff like that, where even many of the laws within the Magna Carta, the UK points to as kind of like the beginning of the constitutional monarch, have basically been overwritten because Parliament is sovereign. But that's a discussion for another time. So guys, as always, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Share this with your friends. If you disagree with me, that's absolutely fine. You can put your comments in the video below and we'll have the discussion. So once again, guys, thanks for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.